I hope that got it.
Could I just follow up on this very point? I just want to understand you correctly. You certainly want to maintain the structure that you have now, because after all, the opposition really did not have or does not have much experience in terms of governing and running institutions and so on. Syria has been around for a very long time. These government institutions and so on. You don't want to see them go in any way.
I'm not sure I understand
well,
completely what you're asking, but let me just take a stab at it, and then you tell me if I got into the ballpark. I mean, what we've said is we recognize that some governing institutions, certainly some levers of government, have got to stay in place so that an order of stability and security can be maintained as you go through a transition process, which is a very difficult, very trying, very uncertain time. We don't want to rip everything down and then have to start over again and build up again. And we've seen how that doesn't work in the past. And the Secretary's also said that any role for Assad in that process has got to be determined by the parties. We're not going to legislate it from externally. But that clearly he can't be the answer to the long-term future of Syria. And that's why we believe it's so important to have it as the end product of this transitional process, elections with the diaspora being able to vote, the millions and millions of Syrians that have fled that country, so that they have a voice and they have a vote, and we believe that if they do, there's no way that they're going to vote to keep Bashar al-Assad in power.
Independent of Assad, I mean, you keep saying that some must stay, some must go. That's the assumption. How do you decide which government agencies should stay or which government agencies should go? Because, we've learned the lessons from Iraq. I mean, you can't just collapse the government. And I understand that you may not want the same leadership in these institutions, whether it's the Ministry of Interior or Defense or the security agencies or even the Ministry of Electricity, as they call it, and water and so on, or agriculture. And you want these institutions to remain in place, while you may not want the leadership to be there, correct?
Does that include the political parties?
Well,
is everyone who's about this going to be kicked out in a transitional government?
These are the kinds of decisions that we want to be hashed out between the parties through these talks. That's why we want the talks to continue. That's why we want to see all sides continue to participate. They've got to decide that. It's not, the ISSG isn't going to sit down and have a meeting and issue a decree and say the following ministries have got to stay in place with the following individuals in certain leadership positions. That we want them to work this out. But clearly, I mean, just common sense would tell you that we certainly want to see some security force apparatus in place, obviously. And certainly institutions and levers of government that can deliver basic services like electricity and water, medical support, and some economic foundation, obviously. I mean, some of the very essential elements of government we'd like to see in place, and I think they're pretty obvious. But what it's going to look like exactly, and who's going to lead them, and how they're going to be administered, that's what we want the parties to work out. That's why these talks are so important. Justin.